Hey, everyone. I hope you're all good today. As usual, before we dive straight into the content, we're just going to give a couple minutes for people to join the session live here. And while we're waiting for people to join, I'll just very quickly introduce our speakers for the session today. So I'm sure many of you will know them already, of course, from LinkedIn, but very glad to have Bob Meijer and Miles McNair here with us today to discuss the future of PPC and how AI is going to impact that. So how are you both doing today?
Good, man. As we spoke a little bit briefly just now backstage, I'm still a little bit hurt because Netherlands lost yesterday. Feels like we got knocked out. But I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to be back here.
Nice. Yeah, I was watching the England match last night, and as we spoke about, it was a pretty boring game. So I don't think you missed much, Miles, by missing that.
Yeah.
But as an Irishman, I'll just say that I was kind of hoping for Slovenia to score. That didn't happen, but there you go. We'll see.
Tread carefully, man. Tread carefully.
Yes, I won't say any more about that because it'll just get too political. But yeah, early in the month, you two held a meetup for the PPC Hub's first birthday, kind of in person. So how was that? It looked really good from the photos that I saw.
Yeah, you go, Bob. It was at your place.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was actually the first party that we hosted, or that I hosted on my new property. So it was really fun to do. And we had like 40 people over across, the whole world. We had people coming over from different countries, like the UK, someone from Russia as well, Mas. And
he was from Berlin, but he's originally from Russia.
From Slovenia, a lot of people from Germany, one from Australia that flew all the way to, our little country, the Netherlands, to meet up with all of the fellow PPC Hub members. So that was really amazing. Yeah, I had a great time. And some even slept over. I think 11 people slept over. So I rushed to Decathlon to fix some sleeping mats and whatnot. And we had some nice breakfast together the next morning, and off everybody went. So it was a great time.
Yeah, it looked really amazing, and I'm glad that you managed to find a place for everyone to sleep up. Because last time we spoke, you were on the way to get those mattresses from Decathlon.
Yes, I was expecting for like 4 people to sleep over, and we do have 2 spare beds. But then all the sleepover requests just kept on coming in, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Now it's getting serious.
We had to cap it at some point because it was just otherwise we had too many people.
Yeah.
But it was cool, really, man. Fun. So many people from different countries. Such a cool experience. It really helps with the community feeling in the PPC Hub as well. You see people are really like getting to know each other now and collaborating more. So that was also good for the community. Apart from that, it's just fun. It was really, really good for us as well for just that group dynamic.
And is that going to be an annual thing?
Maybe.
PPC?
If Bob allows us.
Maybe.
Nice.
Maybe, maybe like a 2.5 year anniversary, and then a 5, and then maybe a 10-year, maybe something like that. Instead of every single year. Yeah, like wedding anniversary. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we will do some in-person events more in the upcoming future. We plan on organizing one in Germany and also one in the UK relatively soon, because a lot of members are coming from those places as well. And as of now, we only had like parties in the Netherlands, in Utrecht, Amsterdam, my place, and we want to go a little bit abroad as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, well, if the UK one's happening, I'll definitely have to keep an eye out for that one.
For sure, man.
I presume it'll be London-based, right?
Probably.
I think so.
Yeah. So before we get going, just on a quick personal note, I just wanted to say big thank you to both you guys for collaborating with myself and the rest of the team at Lunio over the past few years. I think last week I shared a screen grab from the first webinar we recorded together back in 2022. PMax was fairly new at that time, and you guys were kind of getting into figuring out how to optimize things. And it's been amazing to watch the growth you guys have achieved since then, kind of as you've spoken about with the PPC Hub community, people flying from all over the world to be there when you hosted that event. And I feel that success is very well deserved. The amount of work and effort you guys put into delivering value for free is so helpful to the wider PPC community. We're still here 2 years later, still talking about PMAX, but a lot has changed since then.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to getting into that with you both today.
Yeah, we've got a new narrative right now, right? The power pair instead of PMAX.
Yeah,
more on that in a sec. Yeah,
but yeah, it's mutual because as I also told you, it's super easy to work with you guys. You were the first brand to collaborate with us 2 years ago, and since then we've done so much together on the content side. And I just want to give you the props as well and the kudos to the Lunio team. Leonardo is not there anymore now, of course, and you in particular, James, because it's so easy working with you. You do your work so well, you prep well, you take us through like everything we're going to do. And I think you should be a proper example for others on how to organize these things and also to put it into words and the things that you're writing and creating out of that. So just wanted to give you the props as well. And for us, it's always a pleasure to share this stage with you here.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. So we have had a few more people join now, so we will get going. Again, welcome everyone. I'm very glad to have you here either live or if you're watching back on demand. For those that don't know me, I'm James. I'm the content manager at Lunio. I'll be hosting the webinar today. We're aiming for around 50 minutes to get through the content. We do have quite a lot of slides to get through, but we'll try and get through them as quickly as we can to leave some time at the end for a Q&A with Bob and Miles, which I'll say more about in just a second. Just a few other quick bits of housekeeping before we get into the agenda today. We are recording the session today and it will be available to watch back on demand. As I was mentioning about the Q&A, if you have a question for Bob or Miles, please just put it into the dedicated Q&A tab, which you can see here, just so it doesn't get lost in the public chat. And we'll try and get around to answering as many of those questions as we can at the end of the session. Also, just a quick note that when you look at the Q&A tab, you can see questions submitted by other people. And if there's a question in there that you're interested in, you can upvote it. And that kind of helps me prioritize which questions to address when we get onto the Q&A section at the end. We'll also have someone from our team here at Lunio behind the scenes, Ben, responding to some of those questions via the chat as well. We've also got some resources in the Docs tab, which you can see here in Goldcast, and I'll be directing your attention towards that Documents tab at relevant sections throughout the webinar today, so you can get more context and some free resources relating to the content that we'll be covering. Also in the Docs tab, you can find a link to Bob and Miles' weekly PPC Edge newsletter. So if you aren't already subscribed, I definitely recommend doing so. Also, you can get the link to join their free Discord community in there as well. We will be running a few audience polls throughout the session today, and you can vote on those in the polls tab. So please do give us your responses there. You should see a notification pop up on your screen whenever a new poll is open for responses. And you can respond by clicking on the polls tab and submitting your answer. And on that note, I'm just going to bring the first poll that we've got today up on screen here, which is on a different topic from the rest of the content we'll be covering, but it's interesting nonetheless because it's been in the news a lot recently. So if I just share this on the screen. So last week, there were a lot of headlines around the ongoing TikTok case in the US with TikTok kind of appealing this potential ban. So the question for this first poll is, how likely do you think that this TikTok ban in the US will actually come into effect? In my opinion, for what it's worth, to me, it just seems like this is something that's going to get held up in some kind of court of appeal for years and years, and there's going to be lots of fighting back and forth. And I find it hard to believe that it could actually come into effect. But it would be interesting, quickly, Bob and Miles, just to get your kind of take on what you think will happen in that case.
You go first, Bob.
Okay.
Curious about your thoughts.
So I've listened to podcasts about this where Scott Galloway was a guest. I'm not sure if you know him.
I do.
James
he's a great podcaster. Yeah,
he's a great podcaster and a great businessman. And he essentially said that he think it is very unlikely that a company like TikTok is getting banned because there's just too much money involved. There are just too many stakes over there. So he thinks, and I think it is as well, that it is very unlikely that it gets banned in the US because there's just too much money to be made and also to be lost over there. So yeah.
Miles, are you thinking the same?
Yeah, I tend to agree, and it's been going on for so long, and I just don't really see it happening. But hey, if it happens, we'll see. But I honestly, my short answer is I don't think so. I don't think.
Yeah.
And if it disappears, I don't give a damn because I'm not using it.
Neither am I. Like, to be honest, I waste enough time on YouTube and Instagram and other platforms. Like, I refuse to get TikTok because I know that it will steal too much of my attention if I let it.
Absolutely. Me too.
So that's it for the kind of housekeeping and general how things are run. So I'm just going to quickly bring the agenda slide on screen here. So we've got 8 main points to cover today. Firstly, we will be quickly recapping some of the most notable announcements from Google Marketing Live this year, which was all about AI. Next, we'll talk about some tips for effective GenAI prompt writing. And there's a helpful resource I'll highlight during that section, which is well worth checking out if you are using prompts on ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever model you're using. Then we'll cover how to minimize wasted ad spend across PMax campaigns, in particular looking at how to exclude some junk placements, which can be pretty common. After that, we'll discuss the potential risks of becoming overly reliant on AI to run and manage campaigns. Then we'll move on to how widespread AI adoption is helping Google, with some reference to the major antitrust trial going on against Google in the US right now. After that, we will cover the why and how of becoming a T-shaped Google Ads specialist. I know Miles and Bob have a lot to say on that topic, and we'll kind of finish the webinar by exploring some essential skills to develop to future-proof your PPC strategies, and also some complementary skills you can stack on top of your Google Ads expertise to maximize the value that you're delivering. As I mentioned before, when we get through all that content, we will have the Q&A session with Bob and Miles at the end. So you can ask your own questions then, and please do upvote the questions that you like that you can see in the Q&A tab. So that's everything on the agenda. So I will very quickly just kind of set the scene and the context for us here. So as many of you will already know, Google Marketing Live happened in May this year. If you're not familiar with it, Google Marketing Live is an annual event put on by Google every year that showcases their major product announcements for advertisers. And unsurprisingly, AI took center stage this year. There were around 30 new product updates announced. We're obviously not going to go into all of those for time reasons, but crucially, this year's event gave us clear insight into Google's vision for advertising in the new AI era that we're entering into. To quote Google from the event, they said, GenAI is still early stage tech and it won't do everything right, but it's evolving, and it's certainly evolving at a very rapid pace. So over the next few slides, we're going to take a quick look at some of the most interesting announcements and the impact that they'll have on our role as marketers. So firstly, to look at some of the announcements related to measurement and data, Google wants to use AI to make real-time measurement a reality. Again, to quote them from the event, they said AI will be able to simulate and credit performance pre-launch to help you optimize campaigns before you even put any dollars behind them. And as you can see from the quote on the slide here, they made it clear that the key to success in this new era lies in high quality first party data. So Bob, to pass over to you first of all here, what are the key things marketers need to know about Google's plans to enhance their real-time measurement and forecasting abilities?
Yeah, so I can totally understand why Google is pushing this so hard. So in every single keynote they do, in every single live event they push, inside of the marketing live courses they do here and there, they talk about the importance of uploading first party data because of future proofing your measurement and data set. So it's really in their own best interest, but also in our own best interest to upload high quality first party data for real time measurement and also forecasting capabilities. So I think if you take a look at what's happening right now and what has already happened, the EU is already very strict in what you can do in terms of data collection and also conversion tracking and data management. And I think more countries will follow and also do a similar thing, what the EU is already doing. And that's basically a threat to Google, but also a threat to us as an advertiser. So I think it's really important to start thinking about ways to upload high quality first party data, whether that is customer data or your first party web shop or product data, because it will be increasingly important in the upcoming years ahead. And I think that's why Google is pushing this so hard. We always say the advertiser with the highest quality data input and best data input wins. And I think that won't change in the near future. It will only get more and more important as privacy laws are getting stricter, as Google will not be able to to measure as much they did in the past few years already. So yeah.
And one of the other things that we can see on this slide here is kind of Meridian. So when I was reading your summary, Miles, of GML, this was the first time that I came across Meridian, and I was kind of looking into it myself. But Bob, could you just briefly outline what Meridian is and your thoughts on how helpful it could prove to be for measurement?
Yeah, so Meridian is like a triple M model, like a marketing mix modeling software. And you can basically compare it to third-party alternatives out there already, like Triple Whale, Hyros, Polar Analytics, and many more. And basically, with Meridian, you can better understand what the impact on your marketing efforts are, on your bottom line results. And they are introducing this tool because it gets increasingly harder to understand the full picture of what the essential gains are from the marketing dollar spent in terms of marketing spent. I think it's a great innovation, a great new feature they're going to push. But I have my doubts whether or not you want to trust Google, which isn't a third party in this sense, with important data sets like these. So yeah, I think it's going to be a threat for third party tools like Triple Whale, Polar Analytics, Hyros, because Google is going to do the same. But I think it will become evenly more important to think about a real independent third party that does the same for these kinds of analysis.
Yeah, very interesting point there.
Yeah.
And we'll touch on that trust point again later on in the session. But to just quickly move on to what we alluded to in the introduction there about the power pair. So there is a very interesting LinkedIn post from Scott Carruthers here in the UK, which I will summarize in just a second. But firstly, Bob, for those that might not be aware, could you just explain what the power pair is and why Google are pushing that so much as well?
Yeah, it's a completely new narrative that Google has been pushing since, I think, 4, 5, 6 months ago, quite recently. And with the power pair, they are essentially pushing towards, a combination of a PMax full asset in combination with a search campaign with full broad match keywords, paired with smart bidding, like a target CPA or target ROAS strategy, giving Google the full flexibility to find a possible conversion in their full ecosystem. So basically, you're relying on all of the Google AI tools they have built to find that conversion for you. So yeah, you cannot go even more advanced in terms of Google AI, but you're basically letting go of all of the control that you do have as a Google Ads specialist by opting in for a power pair, how they call it. Yeah.
And just quickly on the note of broad match, I know Google have been working away to improve broad match, and they did mention that at Google Marketing Live. They didn't go into the specifics about what they've actually done, but just very quickly, Bob, just to get your kind of impression on how you feel broad match is working across the accounts that you manage at the moment.
Yeah, so it's either a hit or miss from my experience. So we've gathered a lot of cases in the past few months, especially, where I did a lot of 50-50 campaign experiments to check and see whether or not full broad match could outperform the more traditional setup, where you basically combine exact match with phrase match. And sometimes you see great results, and full broad match really hits the ball out of the park, but sometimes it completely backfires. So it's really a matter of testing and to see if it works for you. But there are some certain requirements or variables that I think makes broad match succeed. So what I personally see is that in very mature, fully built out accounts that I've been managing for 5+ years already, broad match isn't going to bring in a lot of new queries, a lot of new customers, because you have already done all of your work in terms of exploring new keywords throughout the years, digging through your search terms and adding new keywords to your ad groups within your search campaigns. Whereas in newer campaigns, in newer accounts, especially with lower impression shares, broad match tend to work really well when compared with a target CPA or target ROAS strategy with quite a challenging target. So it shouldn't be too loose. You need to challenge the algorithm to make it work properly. If you have like a too loose target, then what you tend to see is a lot of irrelevant queries. At least that's my personal experience with full broad match.
Yeah, nice. That makes sense and really useful insight there. So, as I said, to quickly summarize the content of Scott's post, if you are interested in reading Scott's full take, you can find the link to that LinkedIn post in the Documents tab, and you can see his Always Sunny meme in full glory there. But basically, Scott is making the case that Google is pushing the power pair as their, to quote Scott, their way of making us all complicit in the death of the keyword and moving us closer to the keywordless future of PPC. So by moving to broad match in your search campaigns, by nature, you reduce the number of keywords in your account. You don't need to have lots of different variations of terms built out into search because broad match will just pick them all up. When you have less keywords in your account, there's less for Performance Max to exactly match with. So instead of prioritizing your search campaign, it will go for the campaigner ad with the highest ad rank, which is most likely to be Performance Max. It's been no secret that Google have been trying to get users to push more and more of their budget through Performance Max in recent years, and this would certainly help that cause. With less keywords, PMax is eligible to show more often, taking more of your budget in the process. So, Bob, very quickly, just what's your kind of take on Scott's theory? Is he along the right lines of his thinking there?
I fully agree with Scott over here. I think he wrote down an excellent post, and I think it isn't any conspiracy theory at all. I think it really makes sense what Google is trying to do over here, and I think a lot of people are just going with this new tactic because it's the new narrative. It's kind of cool. They found a great new name, the power pair. Who doesn't like a power pair? So I think a lot of advertisers are going to go with this new tactic, and I think a lot of advertisers do not know the potential impact on this, because if you are already on full broad match within search and you haven't really added a lot of broad match keywords, and you're just going to throw in a full asset PMax campaign besides that, you're going to have a lot of internal cannibalization and a lot of keyword hierarchy related issues favoring your PMAX campaign. Basically, what Scott is highlighting in his post as well. The longer that goes on, the more it will look like that your search campaigns won't be effective as PMAX anymore in the long run, potentially enabling Google advertisers to pause their search campaigns. And I think that is what Google is after in the end. I think they're steering towards a keywordless future. And by going this route, they're essentially preparing us advertisers for the eventual keywordless future, but in a indirect way, so to say.
Yeah, very clever move.
Yeah, very clever move.
Yeah. We'll just move on. So this is the last question for you, Bob, before I pass over to Miles. We've got 5 different PMAX and shopping updates listed on the slide here. Could you just kind of briefly talk us through what each one of these is and your kind of top level take on each one?
Yeah, so these are some of the highlights of GML Live. I think there were like 30, right? 30
yeah,
updates?
30 in total, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, really crazy amount of updates once again. But these 5 are really interesting. The one is more interesting than the other, in my opinion. So let's start with the first one, which is profit optimization. We've been doing this, or at least I've been doing this for more than 2 years already by using third-party tooling like Profitmetrics, where you essentially calculate your gross and net profit based on your margins and your variable cost data like fulfillment cost, payment costs, shipping cost, then sending it over to Google Ads and optimizing for the highest net profit possible for your individual target. And essentially, Google is going to do the same, but based on cost of goods sold data only. So as far as I know right now, they're going to use the cost of goods sold that you can submit inside of your product feed through GMC to calculate the actual net profit, sending that over to your Google Ads account by looking at what kind of items were ordered within a particular order. And then you could optimize for, also a higher net profit. I think it is suboptimal to a tool like Profitmetrics because you cannot really factor in other variable costs like Profitmetrics is doing, like fulfillment cost, payment fee cost, shipping costs. But that might change. I'm not sure how this is going to look like, how this is going to end up inside of the Google Ads accounts. But for people that are not willing to spend on licensing fees, and they want to, try this out, it could be a really interesting feature in the future. So then we have loyalty promotions. Loyalty promotions are also interesting. So essentially with loyalty promotions, you can drive sales from loyal members, for example, existing customers that have purchased 2 or more times at your store previously. So what you could do is basically tailor your prices, your promotions to that particular customer segment, which is really cool, I think. The only thing that that I'm not sure of is how this will work with Google's policies, because right now I'm building the shopping mastery course. And I'm looking at all sorts of promotions that you can upload in GMC to make your offer more appealing. And over there, they are saying that you cannot discriminate your customer segments. So you cannot make like a promotion that is only available for certain consumer segments, like existing customers or new customers. And with this feature, that might change. So I think they have to redo their policy work, because if you look it up, it's conflicting. But it's really interesting, I think, if you want to push harder for particular segments. Then you have 3D spin ads, which are also really cool. So if you upload a couple of images, for example, sneaker-related images, through the image link and additional image link from several angles, Google is able to create a 3D spin ad, basically, based off your images, which is really, really fancy. I've already been looking at the US search engine result pages through a VPN connection over here, and it's really looking awesome, and it works great also on mobile phones. So really cool feature. I'm really looking forward for that feature to drop in my region, the EU, as well. Still waiting for that. Most of the times we have to wait like 1 year plus before those features arrive over here. But really cool gimmicky feature. What is also gimmicky is the virtual or the visual try-on model, which is number 4. I think this is a cool new feature, but not really useful. I think I'm not going to be using it personally. Maybe certain people are, if you're shopping for makeup or I don't know, those kinds of products. You cannot really augment the product on your own body or your own face. You have to pick like a model, and I think that doesn't make it really interesting. I think if you really want to make a feature like this interesting, you have to be able to try it out on yourself by taking a selfie or something. That's my personal opinion. And then lastly, new PMax insights. I think once again, it is a big letdown because Google isn't really listening to what we as advertisers want to see inside of Google Ads for our PMax campaigns. And we are still reliant on a lot of third-party scripts, like the one from Mike Rhodes, to see spend allocation per network, to see how certain landing pages perform. Those insights aren't really available in a good way inside of the Google Insight reporting. So yeah, I'm personally let down by that update. Some cool new features, but not really groundbreaking.
Yeah, maybe one day we'll live in hope.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't think it will happen. No.
Just moving on to look at some creative updates. So Google, as many of you be aware, they're building native GenAI functionality into Performance Max and demand gen campaigns through their Gemini models. When I spoke with Thomas Etchell on our last Linear webinar, he made an interesting point about that. As we've been speaking about, we know PMax is Google's #1 campaign type. It's going to be their leading driver of ad revenue. But the fact that they've invested so much time and resource into building GenAI into demand gen campaigns is an implicit signal from Google that they see demand gen as eventually becoming their #2 campaign type behind Performance Max. And we're already starting to see higher and higher adoption rates for demand gen campaigns. But that point aside about demand gen, Miles, what's your current take on GenAI capabilities within Google Ads?
Yeah, so you mentioned they are integrating this in demand gen, PMax, etc. And I think they're doing that because the only bottleneck for or one of the major bottlenecks for advertisers to get started with these types of campaigns with inventory on different places, video, images, etc., is the actual creative. And I think Google knows that. So they want to make it as easy as possible for people to start using these tools and reduce the barrier to entry. And they do that by integrating generative AI and Gemini models, etc., in PMax and demand gen. And if you ask my personal opinion right now, I feel kind of strongly about a lot of AI tools that they are just not good enough yet. I've seen yesterday, actually, this was different. Some of you may have seen this on Bob, his LinkedIn. He posted it. Bob is recording the Shopping Mastery course, and we're using Descript to edit our videos. Good tool, but a lot of different tools, they are integrating AI in the tools, like kind of a little bit of a sidestep. And they had this feature where you can do the uninterrupted eye contact with the camera, but it looked really weird. Like it wasn't even close. It was just total trash. And I see that with generative AI inside of Google Ads, but other tools as well. So I guess it still comes down to your ability to craft like proper prompts And I saw Floris de Schrijver recently post an example of what he created with generative AI, and that looked pretty decent, to be fair, but it still feels super unfinished. And a lot of the times, the output that you get is just not ready to be used directly in a campaign, even though Google is kind of pushing it as if that is the case. And I think one of the biggest examples of that still are automatically created videos in PMax. They are still total trash. And yeah, I definitely believe that in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now is going to be vastly different. But I still believe that it's still subpar. Not only inside of Google Ads, that's not necessarily the point by itself, but I see that across all other types of AI tools where they're promising the world and then you actually play around with it and it's just trash. So yeah, that would be my opinion on that.
Yeah, and yeah, for anyone that hasn't seen Bob's post with the AI generated eye contact, I recommend going to his LinkedIn profile and checking that out. It was a little bit disturbing, but it made me laugh when I saw that yesterday.
Yeah. One more note, James. Sorry. Maybe, yeah. I think the issue could occur when people think that it's a one-stop shop where you just enter one prompt, and then it just spits out like ready-to-use, conversion-optimized creatives. That's not the case. But how you can use generative AI is by simply using it as research purposes, getting new ideas. Maybe drop that prompt so that you can get your creative juices flowing. I think that's probably the best use case right now of generative AI. If you are not really good at building proper prompts yet, just getting ideas that you can work with then. So that's probably better for most advertisers than just thinking, okay, I'm going to add this prompt and directly enter these ads into these creatives into the campaign. That's usually not working well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So just back to demand gen quickly. Google also announced they're lowering the threshold for lookalike audiences in demand gen from 1,000 users in a list to just 100, meaning now that virtually all advertisers, regardless of size, can use lookalike audiences for demand gen campaigns. The benefits of lookalike audiences are something that we covered in a lot more detail in our previous webinar with Thomas Etchell, and there's a link to that previous webinar in the Documents tab if you'd like to check that out at a later date. Also, I just want to direct you towards a LinkedIn post from Thomas as well, which outlines his strategy for seeding your demand gen lookalike audience with a meta lead gen list. The link to his LinkedIn post outlining that strategy is in the Docs tab as well. And I just want to say a big thank you to Thomas, aka the Demand Gen Whisperer, who's releasing a lot of insights and updates about his experiments in demand gen. Nice. The other element you can see on the slide here relates to some of the key updates Google have made to Google Shorts ads, such as the ability to swipe left to go to the landing page without leaving YouTube, and also adding clickable stickers and ads to get more interaction from viewers. As a quick side note, we wrote an in-depth blog on YouTube Shorts ads at Lunio a few months back, and it's gone on to become one of our top performing posts in terms of organic traffic. So there's a big growing interest in the placement type of YouTube Shorts ads, and we can see that in our own traffic data. You can find the link to that blog in the Docs tab as well if you're interested. But Miles, just very quickly, my question for you is, have you experimented with lookalike audiences in demand gen and your kind of thoughts on those?
Yeah, the client that I'm working with right now is not really heavily invested into demand gen with prospecting. So it's more so on the remarketing side. So I haven't really experimented a lot with that recently.
Yeah.
And and I know you did the session with Thomas. I had no idea you actually called him the demand gen whisperer. So I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm going to interview him on our podcast in a couple of weeks, and nice. I'm looking forward to that as well, getting more insights from someone who's doing that like on a high level.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for the PPC Mastery podcast launch coming soon. I know. The final one, I'm just gonna. Sorry, I know Miles. We had that point about OptiScore and stuff. I'm just gonna skip over that if that's okay, in the interest of time. And I'm just gonna move on quickly to this slide, just about prompt writing. So we are going to spend a lot of time on prompt writing because that's not the main focus of this session. But very quickly, if you are interested in leveling up your prompt writing skills, I came across this really useful video from the head of prompt engineering at Copy.ai, Anna Bernstein. You can find the link to her original post and the link to her YouTube video outlining her recommendations when it comes to prompt writing in the Documents tab. And also, before we move on, if you're working on image prompts, there's a useful article from Zapier, which I've included in the Documents tab too, because the approach does vary quite a bit when you're working with visuals rather than text as the output. So if we just come on to this slide. So as we spoke about before, the launch of PMax in November 2021 basically represents the first significant lowering of the bar to entry for PPC, where marketers are essentially trading off control and transparency in return for convenience and simplicity. But that comes with some risks for less experienced marketers, most notably an increase in wasted ad spend if you're not exactly sure what's going on under the hood of the campaigns. And we'll look at two sources of that wasted ad spend in just a second. But before we move on, a question for either you, Miles or Bob, if you could just kind of briefly summarize how you've seen attitudes towards PMax shift within the PPC community over the past 2 years, kind of since we first spoke on the topic, and some of those views are captured in this meme we've got on the slide here.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think there are still two camps where, and I saw this recently in research from Smarter E-commerce, the company where Mike Ryan works. They just released a really nice overview of like PMax insights. How are people using PMax? Because they have access to a lot of different advertiser accounts, like thousands of them, and or hundreds. I don't know the actual size, but a lot. And it showed that the adoption went up for PMax. The adoption for PMax went up for a long time, and then after it kind of stabilized for quite a while. And then they thought that it was probably a group of diehard people still sticking to Google Shopping as an alternative to PMax, whereas like the majority of advertisers, yeah, they are using PMax, but then like a hardcore group of people is probably, and this is an assumption, but are still using the tools that give a little bit more control, which is that sort of the original power pair, search plus shopping. Mm-hmm. And that's that's the biggest sample size that I've seen on research like that. For the rest, it's just anecdotal from what I see, and I know that for a fact a lot of people are using PMax. A lot of people are using PMax and are not happy with it. They think it sucks. For a lot of people, I also see, it is what it is, and it's working well for me. So I think the adoption is definitely there, except for maybe that hardcore group of people still using shopping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Just to move on quickly. Yeah. Sorry. So I'm just going to very quickly talk about PMax campaigns and invalid traffic. So the graph that you can see on the screen here comes from our 2024 wasted ad spend reports that we published at Lunio. You can download the full version of that from the Docs tab. The report was based on a data set of 2.6 billion paid ad clicks from more than 60,000 ad accounts that we protect here at Lunio. Specifically, we were interested in looking at the number of legitimate clicks versus invalid clicks to work out average invalid traffic rates across industries, channels, company sizes, and more. And when we segmented that click data by channel, we got this graph that you can see here. The worst offenders for high average invalid traffic rates were LinkedIn, Twitter, and Meta. There's a lot we could say about that, but we're not going to get into it here because we don't have time. But basically, if you're spending a lot on those channels with no protection in place, it's highly likely that you are wasting a significant chunk of ad spend there. In comparison, most Google channels, including PMax, search, display, and YouTube, performed relatively well. Google do seem to be ahead of the other platforms when it comes to handling IVT, but they still haven't solved the problem completely. The average IVT rate for PMax campaigns came in at an average of 5.96%, which is just over 1% higher than we see with Google search and shopping campaigns. On the face of it, that might not sound like much, but when you're working with ad spend in the hundreds of thousands or millions per year, that represents a significant chunk of money and a loss of campaign efficiency because, of course, those invalid clicks will never convert. One quick side note is when we published this report, our IVT protection was based on an exclusion audience model where invalid users were detected and added to a continually growing negative audience within PMAX. But Google has since updated PMAX to support account level IP exclusions, which we've now built into the Lunio product itself. So when you're running Lunio for PMAX, you're getting the dual protection of both the negative audience of invalid users and the IP exclusions as well, which ultimately helps to steer the algorithm in the right direction. When we look at the data, it kind of makes sense that PMAX would have a slightly higher rate of invalid traffic because it forces the use of display ads primarily, which are notorious for lower quality traffic. So now that we've established that baseline, I'll just very quickly talk through some of the variability that we see in that data. So while the average IVT rate for PMAX was 5.96, on the low end, we see PMAX campaigns with IVT rates of around 1.5%. And at the high end, we see some PMAX campaigns with IVT rates around 18%. The reality is there's no real way to know exactly where your own campaigns fall within that range without auditing your traffic. So if you are interested to find out how much IVT your PMAX campaigns are currently bringing in, you can request a 2-week free traffic audit with Lunio, where we will monitor and analyze your traffic coming from Google Ads. And at the end, you'll find out exactly where you fall within that 1.5% to 18% range, as well as how your PMAX campaigns stack up against your other standard search and shopping campaigns. There's a link to get that traffic audit in the document section if you're interested. Before we move on, I'll just quickly say that the PMAX campaigns that we see with high IVT rates of 10% or more tend to come from B2B lead gen activity. Hence the meme you can see on the screen here. It's no secret that PMAX for lead gen is plagued by low quality traffic and spam lead submissions. So if you are a B2B brand, it's definitely worth auditing your traffic if you're running PMAX and then deciding what to do with that once you have the data in hand. Just to move on from that, to talk about PMAX junk placements. So there's invalid traffic coming from PMAX, but also there's some placements that are probably not worth spending your money on. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Geert for posting this last week and raising awareness about the problem of junk placements within PMAX campaigns. The link to his original post is in the Docs tab. If you want to click on those links that he's included in his post and see those junk placements for yourself. Bob, you kind of commented on Geert's post, and I've pulled your comment out and put it on this slide here. So could you just kind of quickly give us your opinion on how big of a problem these placements are within PMAX campaigns?
Oh, there's a big world out there of people crafting the search arbitrage websites and basically scamming money away from Google Ads advertisers. And it's a big, huge problem. So if you take a look at the URLs, the domain names over here that Geert has listed, they basically have like thousands and thousands of unique domain names where only like a small number changes within the domain name, like luxury hotels 1.live, luxury hotels 2.live, and they basically put like AdSense on there and try to make some money by finding a way to extract money from advertisers. So it's called search arbitrage. It's a big scene out there, and it's also a big problem. So right now, Google still hasn't found a solution for this. I think they do ban certain websites from using placements like these, but they just pop out instantly the next day. So yeah, I don't think it will be solved. It's more a matter of looking to protect yourself if you're running mid-upper funnel campaign types like PMAX, display, YouTube, to prevent your ads from showing up on these kinds of placements. I know you guys have built out a long list of high volume spam exclusions that you can add to your account. That's the first start, but you also have to keep track and keep an eye on all of the newer created placements, like the ones that Geert just showed. It's just horrible. Yeah. But you can do certain things to prevent your money to go to those placements.
Yeah, so as Bob mentioned there, we do have this exclusion list that we put together at Lunio. You can download that today for free and apply that in your Google Ads account just to minimize some of the wasted spend on some of those placements. But just moving on to the next slide here. Miles, there's a quote on this slide taken from your original article, and could you just explain why you think this is a scary quote?
Yeah, so at Google Marketing Live, one of the keynotes, they mentioned that they said, quote, "We see a future where AI will supercharge the entire advertising lifecycle, from building your creative to running your media to measuring results." And the reason why I called this scary, apart from having a good hook for my post, is because it's actually, it is kind of scary, because this is what we have all anticipated for a long time, where Google is now actively saying that, yeah, eventually AI is going to be embedded throughout not only creating creatives, which was already the case. Measurement is now also a big part of it. And then they also said running your media. And that's where it becomes scary for some people, because they have some people have had anxiety about, or maybe not anxiety, but sort of fears about that their jobs will be taken away, and that Google is sort of trying to get rid of the agencies. I don't think that's the case, but I think because of AI, you have to reinvent yourself, because as a result of AI being able to create your creatives, analyze your data, running your running your campaigns, everyone is going to have like really similar campaign setups. Then you have to think about, okay, what's my competitive edge now? And I think because of this new wave that we are in now, and have been in for a while, I think a lot of Google Ads specialists, if they do not reinvent themselves continuously, will become a commodity. And you put it on the slide here. A commodity is basically a product or service that can be easily replaced and has no differentiating factors. And I think if you are a Google Ads specialist and you kind of stick to what you have always done, and you don't really look ahead and don't adapt and reinvent yourself, then I think you are going to become commoditized, which means that someone is going to take your spot, whether it is just because someone using AI is becoming much more efficient at what you do and can do it faster at a lower rate, for example, or because they're just leveraging the capabilities of conversion optimized creatives, etc. So that's why I think it's scary for some people. I don't think you should be scared at all if you are constantly reinventing and developing yourself. But if you're not, if you are stuck in the ways that you have worked for a long time, then maybe this should be a wake-up call for you to kind of upgrade your skills to the next level, so that you not become that commodity which is going to be replaced like that.
Yeah, and this graph kind of, in a way, captures what you've been talking about there, in terms of, as a Google Ads specialist, you do need to start to shift your focus. And as illustrated by the two lines on the graph here, is kind of the amount of time that you spend within Google Ads itself will decrease year on year. And the kind of amount of time that you spend on things outside of Google Ads, which we'll speak a bit more about in a second, is kind of naturally going to increase. And these areas outside of Google Ads that lie beyond it are areas that are going to be key for continuing to deliver value for clients and for brands. So just very quickly,
quick note, we hired like a graphic designer to make that graph for us. It cost like 500 euros.
That was worth it, 100%.
Yeah, beautiful.
No wasted spend there. So just quickly, I wanted to take a moment to put our cynical hats on for a second and just consider how widespread AI adoption is beneficial for Google's profits. At the risk of sounding like a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, I'm not saying that Google are evil or they're kind of out to take your money at all costs. Ultimately, they're just trying to deliver value for their shareholders, like every other business, but that does have implications for us as marketers. So all the headlines that you can see on this slide come from a Search Engine Land article, which summarizes all the key details of the ongoing antitrust trial case against Google in the US. You can find the link to that Search Engine Land article in the Docs tab. And we've also got a Lunio Carousel LinkedIn post, which kind of summarizes a TLDR takeaway from that article if you don't have time to read the full thing. So before we move on to becoming a T-shaped Google Ads specialist, Bob and Miles, in your opinion, how does lowering the barrier to entry and leveling the playing field work in Google's favor?
Yeah, well, the issue here is the things that are coming to light now is what everybody was already assuming. And if you do put on your tinfoil hat, that's kind of like John Moran always says that, and he's like in his conspiracy mode. Then yeah, everybody had their doubts and their suspicions that this was already happening behind the scenes, but we just couldn't prove it. But now there's actual proof with not leaked, but emails that they had to show in the case, and mechanics of the auction and fraud and stuff like that that's happening, or alleged fraud. Then don't sue me, Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely tricky, and I can understand why people are concerned about that. And now it's all coming to light with the suspicions that we already had. It's not looking good for Google. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
And your question was sorry, I want to answer your question about the barrier to entry that's lower now. How's that playing in Google's favor? Well, the thing is with PMax, etc. It's just easy to kind of put things under the rug so that we cannot see it, what's going on under the hood, in terms of where your money is being spent, which channels, how much for placement, how much for CPCs, etc. And yeah, if you do put on like your conspiracy hat, then that could be in the favor of Google, because we just cannot prove ourselves that we might have doubts of overpaying.
There's a reason you can't use portfolio bid strategies with max CPC caps within PMax, and there's a reason you cannot see average CPCs. Yeah.
Very interesting. We'll leave it there, and I just want to let people know we're going to go through the remainder of these slides quite quickly. I think we've got 4 slides left, but just looking at the time, we may end up running over by 10 or 15 minutes. We will get to the Q&A. We'll answer as many questions as we can, but just to kind of quickly run through the final few slides. Miles, what is a T-shaped Google Ads specialist, and why should people begin moving in this direction?
Yeah. So we're constantly thinking about where the industry is going and how to stay ahead and how to help people stay ahead. And we think that the future for Google Ads specialists belongs to the T-shaped Google Ads specialist, or the future of PPC belongs to the T-shaped Google Ads specialist. And we already discussed like the potential dangers of not reinventing yourself, not adapting yourself, becoming a commodity when everything is automated, when AI is embedded in everything. And I think the solution to that is becoming a T-shaped Google Ads specialist, which means you are basically sort of a specialist and a generalist in one. So you have one core specialization. So it's in the shape of the T. You have depth of knowledge is really high on one topic, which is Google Ads, which is the core of your service, the core of your skills, the core of how you help clients, and the core of your career. But on top of that, you need to layer additional knowledge and additional skills to stay relevant and become more than just the person who's managing Google Ads. You want to become a business partner for your clients by how we call it, developing essential business skills, which is basically just things that are going to help your clients take their results and their business to the next level outside of just Google Ads. So becoming a partner for them by challenging them on their offers, on their landing pages, on their positioning, maybe developing certain skills in sales, soft skills, being able to pitch and present ideas in a better way, deeply understanding marketing fundamentals and human psychology, which is what it all comes down to in the end. And I think if you understand, like if you add these skills to your existing deep specialization of Google Ads, and that needs to be deep because you need to, with everything that you're doing, you need to know what you're doing and what and why you're doing it, and what you can do when it breaks. And that's an issue for a lot of people I see. Like it's easy to copy something that you see online, even if it's a strategy that we are posting. It's easy to copy that, but you need to deeply understand like why am I doing that, so that when it breaks, maybe you find out, or you know what to do about it. One sec before we touch on this. And then on top of that, so you have your deep specialization, then you have broad knowledge of the things that I just mentioned, as in the business skills. And then on top of that, you have a third layer, which is how you truly future-proof yourself. And that's by adding in a complementary skill set that stacks on top of your existing Google Ads skill set. So for example, SEO, you could combine that with Google Ads, your Google Ads skills, or maybe even specialize in meta ads, specialize in AI. I'm going to run through them quickly. Data and analytics, creative strategy, CRO. One of these things plus Google Ads makes you truly unstoppable, because then you can become the bridge, for example, between SEO and PPC. Maybe you can help your clients if you focus on other channels like Meta, TikTok, etc. You can help them with full funnel media strategies. If you focus on data input, you can help them with all the first party data stuff, etc. You can help them with highly optimized creatives for conversions. Maybe you specialize in CRO so that you can help your clients generate more conversions without any additional ad spend, which is a super easy pitch. A lot of extra added value is in there if you have your core specialization in Google Ads, and then those things like layered on top. I think that's how you truly future-proof yourself, and that's how you're going to stand out from everyone who's just basically just doing the same old thing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Miles, for that kind of really kind of whistle-stop tour of everything that you kind of explained fully in that blog in a lot more detail. Yeah, there's a lot of useful insights to take away there. We are going to leave it there for the content, just in the interest of time. And while with the, I'll just let it run till 3:10, just to get through a few questions from the Q&A tab, and we'll get through as many of those as we can. And of course, if there's anything covered, if we covered anything today that piqued your interest in relation to fake traffic or invalid clicks, you can sign up for that traffic audit with Lunio via the QR code or direct via the address listed on the slide here. So I'm just going to take a quick look at the questions here. And
yeah, there's always more to talk about, and I guess it just proves that we can easily do a part 2 about this. So
yeah, 100%. Oh, this is a really upvoted question, so I will share this. So Ben has asked, what are the best levers to pull optimizations for PMAX campaigns that have less than 30 conversions in the last 30 days?
Yeah, good question. We can brainstorm on this, Bob, but I'll take it broadly first. Your campaign structure is probably one of the most important things to think about, especially if you have not a lot of conversions. Like in this case, maybe consolidation is your way to go. Also, if your spend is limited, proactively think about which products and product types are driving results and are important to the business, and exclude a lot of the unimportant ones, because that's an issue that I see in a lot of accounts where they just have the entire product inventory. They're advertising on thousands of products, and then every product is getting 1 to 10 euros of spend. Whereas maybe it's better if you kind of bulk that in the top 10-20% initially to get those, to get started. Next to that, if you have, I don't know how many conversions you have in your entire account, but if it's so low, maybe Performance Max may not even be the right pick to begin with. Maybe you're better off with the original Power Pair search shopping and some dynamic remarketing. That's without any insights of your context of your account. Those are more the bigger considerations. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, really. I think if you're pushing low volumes, in terms of clicks, spend, conversions, and you're doing PMAX, I think a lot comes down to hygiene. So those are just the basic optimizations that you can do. I think optimizing PMAX becomes way easier and way better if you're pushing beyond 30 conversions per month. So by saying that, I would definitely look for ways to ramp up those numbers. And oftentimes that means that you have to look beyond just PMax as a campaign or campaign type, and really have to factor in your offer, your landing page, to try to get that conversion rate to go up. That way, you could truly scale your PMax campaign. Otherwise, you will be more so optimizing your PMax campaign in terms of hygiene, and you'll be scaling it down in terms of making the efficiency better. But yeah, it will hurt the scalability of your campaign. So that's what I would end with.
Yeah, and I will add to that, this is the perfect demonstration about what you just said of looking beyond just Google Ads and how you are valuable for your clients, because you're already thinking about if you can take control of the landing page, what's going on with their offer, their positioning, etc. Are they speaking to the right audience with the copy on the landing page? All these things, that's going to give you a huge edge, because you can make a lot of impact with just your landing page. You'll be surprised how bad usually the landing pages are.
And think about creatives as well. So look, PMax is really highly automated, and in that sense, you cannot really pull a lot of levers. You have to. It comes down to a couple of balls that you can manage at the same time or separately, and your optimizations are quite limited. That is just how PMax is designed as well. If you look at ways to optimize search campaigns, standard shopper campaigns, basically dedicated campaign types like search, shopping, video, display, even demand gen, it gives you way more opportunities to really optimize for efficiency or even scalability. With PMax, it's more so looking at the core of your creatives, offering, landing pages, and it is really lame in any sense. And I can understand this is maybe not the answer you're hoping for, but it really comes down to your fundamentals.
There's no escaping, but yeah, it does come down to the fundamentals all the time. Yeah. I feel like I kind of have an idea of the answer that I'll get here, but a question from Tiffany that's got a lot of upvotes as well is, what's the best resource for PMax reporting scripts?
Yeah, you can basically answer that question. It's 100% Mike Rhodes.
Mike Rhodes, yeah, that's what I thought.
There's like one random Australian guy enabling us to properly analyze PMax campaigns, and he's doing such a great job. He's constantly optimizing his scripts and optimizing his reports. We had him on the PPC Hub last week for 2 advanced workshops around AI and scripting, and it's just a goat, the greatest of all. So yeah, really recommend joining his circle community, where he shares his thoughts, his updates, his scripts. And if you have not invested in one of his paid scripts, I would definitely do it, because it will open up your PMax reporting.
Yes, shout out to Mike Rhodes again. He's featured in numerous Lunio webinars before as well, not in person, but we have referenced and plugged the scripts many times. So one other question from Abdul. So how can we effectively pair search and performance max campaigns to optimize my service-based businesses industry, particularly in the healthcare sector?
This is a broad question. But let me give you a broad answer. So what I would first do, and that's still my go-to way of working, I still like to maximize dedicated campaign types first, because it gives me the best possible insights and the best possible control over what is really important when running Google Ads. So in this case, I would really look for ways to optimize and scale your search campaigns first. So look if you can scale through adding additional keywords through the keyword planner, to all the way through third-party keyword tools, giving you additional ideas about what keywords to target. Go through your search and reports, add new ad groups with new keyword themes. Try to experiment with different match types. So if you have been running on exact match only, try to throw in phrase match, then try to throw in broad match and see what it does with your coverage, see what it does with your volumes. And then also look at things like, hey, am I maximizing coverage through DSA as well, through dynamic search ads, dynamic targeting? Can I optimize my coverage by adding those into the mix as well? And then also look at things like, am I using the correct bid strategy? Do I have scaling opportunities by setting different, more aggressive targets? Can I optimize my campaign by throwing in a more advanced conversion tracking method, by basically measuring more conversions and therefore increasing my data input accuracy? So look at those things first. And then once you are basically done and you're looking at your account like, hey, I think I've done every single thing within this search campaign that gives me scaling opportunities. And we haven't even talked about everything that goes beyond search, landing pages, offers, and stuff like that. Then try to experiment with PMax and look what the power pair can do for you, and look at your bottom line volumes. So if the total is increasing in terms of clicks, conversions, and everything is efficient and running on target, then you can essentially know that the power pair is working for you in any sense. But yeah, start with the basics and your dedicated campaign types first.
Nice. Thank you, Bob. And this is going to be the final question, just because we will need to wrap up. But Miles, maybe one for you. Can you provide any directions to any courses for improving or starting to become a T-shaped Google Ads specialist? I know you recently, I think it was today, you posted on your LinkedIn a long list of books that you recommend reading. So that might be a good starting point. But beyond that, where would you send people?
That's a great question. Yeah, I don't think there is a course that teaches you how to become a T-shaped Google Ads specialist. I think what you can do, I can share how I do that and how I always develop myself, is by seeking out sources of trustworthy information that I personally like, people that I think are good at their work, that I can trust, that have expertise and authority. Not only inside of the Google Ads space, could be us, could be someone else. That's entirely up to you. That's it for the Google Ads side. Just find people on LinkedIn. There's tons of people sharing really good insights on LinkedIn. It's growing like crazy, the PPC community there. That's a great place to start. If you want to take it further, you can take some courses. Of course, we have our courses. We have the PPC Hub. You can check that out on our website. But there are other people that are doing similar things in terms of courses that you can start with. If you're a complete beginner, maybe start off with a beginner-oriented course. Then once you have that specialization in Google Ads, then you have the skills on top, which are more on the general marketing side. What I always do is I read books. I listen to different podcasts. If you have the budget, invest in some courses from people. I have personally learned a lot from Russell Brunson. He's like the GOAT of funnels. He even originated the idea of funnels. His book, .com Secrets, is a great place to start. It's like 10 or 20 euros. And also like marketing fundamentals books. Cialdini, the principles of influence. Human psychology is definitely super interesting to study, because that's what it all comes down to in the end. Like how do our brains work, and how are we wired, and how do we buy stuff online or physically. That's generally speaking, like if you put it really in a general sense, the same for a lot of people in like different ways, but there's not like a ton of variation in how our brains work, because it's just still wired in thousands of years ago. But that would be a good start. Just start with Google Ads. That's why we say that's step number one. Make sure you have that deep specialization, and then once you have that, move up and find that more broader general knowledge. And you don't have to have I think your Google Ads specialization should be at least 9 out of 10 in terms of how you rate it. And the rest can be like 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, because you don't need to know everything about it. You don't need to know everything about SEO, for example, but maybe want to know the basics so that you can have those conversations with your clients, and then when it gets really deep, you can fly in a specialist that has that 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 specialization. So those are just some ideas. Look for free content. Then if you find someone that you trust and then you like, maybe buy some courses, join the programs, and then from there, just keep investing in yourself. That's what I do all the time, and that will never. I think that's the best investment that you can do ever, always, and that's going to lead to you becoming that T-shaped Google Ads specialist, I think.
True. Thank you very much, Miles. We will we'll close it on that point. Big thank you to both you, Miles and Bob, for joining us today. So many useful insights and perspectives there today. Is there anything else you'd like to mention or direct people towards before we wrap up?
Not per se. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us at ppcmastery.com. That's, if you want to, that's where you can subscribe to the PPC Edge. We share a newsletter every Monday and every Friday, filled with Google Ads insights, usually for the more experienced Google Ads specialists. If you want to go really deep with us, we have our membership platform / community. It's called the PPC Hub. And in there, we have 1,200 experienced Google Ads specialists from all over the world who are just always sharing. And we have a lot of different courses in there for search, shopping, conversion tracking, PMax, a lot of different things. And we're nowhere near finished building with that. So if you want to go really deep with us, that's the best and the most amount of value we can deliver to you. But if you want to go the free route, then check us out on LinkedIn, and you might like the PPC Edge as well. And if you like memes, then definitely follow Bob.
Yes, and yes, go check out Bob's post about the AI image generation, because I feel like everyone needs to see that. Yeah.
If you like fake eyelashes, then that's definitely a video you want to watch.
Yeah, likewise, if you have any questions for us at Lunio, you can contact us directly via hello@lunio.ai, and we'll be happy to help. As I mentioned before, if you're interested in getting a demo of Lunio and a traffic audit to see how much of your traffic is invalid from PMax, you can do that via the link in the docs tab. Lastly, big thanks to everyone here for tuning in, getting involved in the chat. I just want to say thank you to Georgie there for sharing the link to Mike Rhodes' LinkedIn profile, where you will be able to navigate, follow him, and get the links to his scripts. Also, thanks to Thomas Etchell, who I saw was in the chat today. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch up soon. Thomas, the Demand Gen Whisperer, good to see you again. Basically, we've got another webinar coming up at the end of July. More details on that coming soon, but we have got a great guest lined up for that. He is a friend and collaborator of both Miles and Thomas Etchell. He has a trademark ginger beard, and I will leave it there for that one. You might be able to piece together who it is. But take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and best of luck with your Google Ads campaigns.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.